For a company that has lost about 30% of its stock value this year, how do you now look at it as an investment?
Longer, to pound the table for longer term. I mean, obviously, if you look at it over the last 4 or 5 years, any types of these sell-offs have really been golden opportunities. Now, you got to put the seatbelt on and definitely, you're going through a white knuckle period. But on the other side of this is I think growth returns to China and you start to have the FSD autonomous vision start to play out, you're going to see them gain more and more share. And the sub 30K vehicle next year, we'll call it a Model 2.5, that's going to be key to capturing share. But right now, look, New York City cab driver is bearish from Tesla.
Well, looking at Dan Ives' price target for Tesla, he thinks it will go to $275 in the next 12 months. So even in the short term, based on that price target, it's an opportunity. But for now, the consolidation period continues, and I believe we will have a massive jump eventually. For now, patience. But if you agree with Dan Ives that it's a golden opportunity for Tesla stock, click the like button.
Look, it's been a very difficult, I'd say, 6 months, but really because of the China story. I mean, China, that was a key growth engine that's now been a headwind. But our whole view on Tesla, this is just, we'll call it the early stages of a much longer term story that's starting to play out. And I think we've been here before. They've been through challenges. But even like we've seen the last few weeks with the earnings, then Musk going to Beijing and others, there have definitely started to now be some seeds that I think are going to lead to growth. I wouldn't say an insult to call it just an auto company, but my view is it's disruptive tech. Because when you look at the broader vision in terms of full self-driving, autonomous, electric vehicle transition, even though demand's obviously moderated globally, I think it continues to be a disruptive technology player. But I think many that call it an auto company, John, it's the same people that they look at Microsoft and say, it's still legacy PC Windows instead of a cloud company. So I continue to view this as the disruptive technology player that's really in the a transitionary state for growth.
And keep in mind that Tesla's energy margins are higher than the automotive margins. According to local news in China, Tesla has a permit to construct the Megapack factory in Giga Shanghai. Now, I think they had a permit of sorts already, so I think everything is just coming together and things are clearly moving forward right now. Anyway, the dates are all over the place for when exactly did Tesla get permits. Just remember that Tom Zhu is back in China, and with him there, I think things are going to move more smoothly. There's a lot of potential for the Megapack business. Here's a project that's ongoing construction right now. It's waiting for the arrival of 444 Tesla Megapacks worth about $800 million. Seems like they are in the process of pouring concrete. Eventually, it's going to look like this. Here's Omar driving for 1 hour, 26 minutes. He delivered 6 Mother's Day's flower orders using Tesla's latest FSD version and then drove back to the flower shop. FSD completed 5 out of 7 drives with 0 intervention, so that's a 71% success rate. And those that he didn't complete fully without interventions, they're minor interventions. He had 2 minor interventions to pull over at the end and help complete a U-turn. By the way, some people are wondering what happens if you activate FSD without a destination in the navigation. Where does it take you? From my experience, it generally just drives straight. But if you're a Tesla bear, it might take you to your ex's house. Yesterday, I drove on the newest version, and I do see small improvements here and there. For me, overall, it's slightly better. No significant changes, only minor changes. And here's someone trying FSD V12 for the first time. I think it's typical to not be able to wipe the smile off your face. Omar asks Elon, have you seen much of an increase in FSD purchases and subscriptions for those who have completed their free trial? We know that Elon often replies to Omar, so likely he is actually going to see this post. It's not guaranteed, but the chance I think is over 50% that he is about to see it or he has already seen it. There's no reply from him, not at this time. But can Elon Musk really win by replying to this? First, if he doesn't reply, then maybe some people will assume, well, okay, the take rates are not much better. But if he does reply to it positively, it is quite material. It would be like him saying, well, the deliveries were higher for Tesla this week, and Elon doesn't tweet things like that. So I wouldn't really expect Elon to reply to this post. But this is a pretty decent point. Things will change with nag-free FSD. At the moment, it hurts the experience significantly, at least where I live. Omar thinks people have no idea how big of a deal this will be. Jason agrees. And yesterday, actually, when I was driving, it was only a 10-minute drive, but it was not the easiest drive. I don't remember having the nag, or maybe I'm just so used to it that when I see the blue flashing screen on my right side, I just immediately turn out the music volume or turn it down to eliminate the nag. Oh, but throughout that whole drive, I think I was changing songs a lot, so that probably makes the car think I'm paying attention to the road. And now the beta label is officially scrubbed from all software. If you get into a Cybertruck, it will now say that it has settings for full self-driving supervised, not beta. Ray shared another FSD clip. Look at how well it interacted with these pedestrians. The car slowed down. It didn't do anything dangerous. You would feel very safe in the vehicle. And you wouldn't be freaking out, oh, is it gonna hit these people? But also, there was no phantom braking. Everything was just comfortable, which is generally the opposite of what shorting Tesla stock is like. I think we have a fairly decent explanation now why Omar's navigation froze up somewhere here. So the vehicle software did not freeze. It's just that his location stopped changing despite him clearly moving forward. It stayed in the same place for a while. It's probably because of the solar flares. Supposedly it's a worldwide issue, and there were articles written about this. Why tonight's massive solar storm could disrupt communications and GPS systems. So it was not a problem with Tesla, not at all. I mentioned this poll yesterday before it was fully finished. Now the poll has concluded, and 44% of the people who had the free FSD trial after it expired have subscribed to FSD. 56% of the people didn't. Sawyer's followers are of course much more likely to subscribe, so the actual numbers in the end will be smaller than this, but certainly it's a positive indication, especially keeping in mind that you have that nag. Some people are really enjoying the software. Here's someone driving basically for more than 99% of the miles on Tesla software. We know based on what Elon Musk said earlier that the limiting thing that's stopping Tesla from making progress even faster with FSD is now the number of interventions. Tesla needs more intervention data. So you can help Tesla actually if you have FSD. When I disengage, I try to submit a voice note, quickly explain what's going on. There seems to be a problem with FSD reading speed limit signs incorrectly. If you encounter that, just simply disengage, submit a voice note, and you will be helping Tesla make progress faster. Also, sometimes Tesla seems to confuse this sign with the speed limit. You have to go at least at 40 miles an hour here, but the car thinks that's the speed limit. I think in 12.5, it will probably get much better because Elon did say that in 12.4, the vehicle will react much better to hand signals, and 12.5 might actually nail it. So I imagine they will also include more data from signs. I actually really like it. If you are driving manually for an extended period of time, the user interface will prompt you to activate FSD. James Dalma just dropped some wisdom. He replied to this post, can anyone help me understand how to generally correlate compute with anticipated FSD advancement? Remember that at least at this moment, supposedly Tesla is not limited by compute. So this is quite important to understand what Tesla is able to do with all of that extra compute. More compute gives faster ingestion, pre-processing, training, validation, but it also gives the option of training with more data. You know, the thing that Tesla has more of than anyone else. Training more model variations, training more conservatively for better results with less labor, and running more parallel training paths. That's why Elon Musk is talking about, oh, well, we just released 12.3.6, but we are about to release 12.4, and he's already talking about 12.5. All of these versions are being trained basically at the same time. Pete Bannon described compute as a currency that you could spend in lots of different ways to make the process better and faster and get better results. And as a company, I don't think you can ever have too much money, and the same goes for compute. You can never have too much compute, really, because we know very little about the details of Tesla's internal training configuration and even less about the current things they are focused on. It's not really possible to predict with any detail how in particular they are using additional compute. But it's going to be true that more compute, almost any amount, will let them leverage their people and fleet more effectively to get a better FSD sooner. The more compute they have, the better it will be and the faster it will come. The metrics we can see from outside have very limited applicability because they don't have statistical power, and the essence of what metrics can tell at this stage is statistical. If you have access to FSD, the best measure is how the system performs for you. If you don't have access, then the opinions of other regular people using it is probably the best you can do. Those YouTube videos are useful even though they are naturally going to be cherry-picked and fairly noisy, which is why I always say if you have a Tesla, make sure that you go on FSD drives and try to take the same drive. So earlier on V11, I would go to my business, and it's about a 15-minute drive, and I would have multiple interventions. Now I regularly get 0 interventions, so now I picked a much more difficult new route for me to test and stress test FSD. And this way, I would never get tricked by someone saying, well, this new version is actually much better, but if I try it and it's worse for me, well, maybe overall it's better, but it's not better for me, so then I can adjust my expectations based on that. Because FSD has to eventually work everywhere. The best part is hearing long-time users talk about how they have seen it evolve over recent years. I'm really looking forward to seeing how 12.4 and then 12.5 perform in users' opinions. Our first look at 12 is informative about the current state of the system, but it doesn't tell us much about how quickly the new planning approach will advance. It's promising, but more evidence will be welcome. If 12.4 is significantly better than what we have right now, and if 12.5 does that again, I think that will be quite a bullish thing. For long-term investors, I'm just wondering, when will eventually Wall Street and all of these other investors realize it's actually a big deal? Oh, we are learning more about these protesters that stormed Tesla's Giga Berlin factory. Here's one of these protesters. This is her X profile. Don't follow me. I'm lost too. Well, since some of the campaigners have been camping out in the woods near Giga Berlin for a few months now, since February, some of them got lost in the forest, probably. So this is what she posted. Hey, Elon Musk, it's us again, protesting only against you. So come on, stop the water and land grabbing. So it is an environmental protest. Stop your useless Gigafactory, leave the city alone. There's also a community note under this post. The water consumption of Tesla is very low compared to the economic benefits for the country and comparable at the level of some farms. They also recycle 100% of their water. The country's environmental office also sees no danger. If you are going to protest a company that has done more for the environment than pretty much almost any other company out there, I will have a question for you. Did you write this on your phone made by child labor? Nothing is perfect in this world, but protesting a company that is really trying to do the best it possibly can, and that certainly is not doing nowhere near as much bad as any other company out there. This is just as hypocritical as wearing jeans. Because keep in mind, each pair of jeans worn by all of you requires twice as much water to produce as one Model Y in Giga Berlin. And I see a lot of people wearing jeans. Now, I actually don't wear jeans, but it has nothing to do with environmental reasons. About 5 years ago, I had a thesis that EV-hating folks will start vandalizing Teslas as they gain popularity. Instead, they have pro-climate folks vandalizing Teslas as they gain popularity. The most ironic outcome is the most likely. But these people to me seem more like they're anti-capitalism and maybe even anti-human. When I go on a road trip and I am not in a rush, I appreciate this so much. I think many people actually overlook this. One underrated aspect of superchargers is that they placed them at really good locations. Places you would want to visit anyway, usually with food shops, shopping and restaurants within walking distance, not just in the parking lot of Walmart. Hope that continues. It's really nice on a road trip because rather than having to plan out where to stop, the car's navigation system automatically plans out a nice trip plan for you. It even warns you when a location has little or no amenities, so you can choose a different location if needed. Talked to a guy last night who was curious about our Tesla. He asked how often I take it out to charge. I said never, I charge at home. He had no idea you could charge an EV at home. I think this sort of makes sense. This isn't some stretch of stupidity either. You don't fill a gas car at home, and charging networks are all the rage in the news. It sort of makes sense to ask how often do you have to fill up an EV. So James chips in with this comment: someone who doesn't know they could charge their car at home won't buy a Tesla because of the 1% financing rate. Never mind the fact that they also certainly don't even know about the 1% financing rate. I digress, he says. Anyway, I don't see Elon reposting that promotion that Tesla just started, but also he hasn't really posted much yet today, so there's a good chance he will post about it. At this moment, no one can make an argument, well, I don't want to buy a Tesla vehicle because the interest rates are too high. Well, you're only paying 1%. That's less than inflation. So it's a good deal. Assuming 46 weeks of Model Y orders in the US, which should be about 50,000, at 1% interest rate rather than 5% earned on cash could cost Tesla another 2 cents per share in 2024 EPS. We believe GAAP accounting requires that the discount be amortized over the term of the loan rather than taken upfront. We have always preferred offering lower interest rates on Tesla loans versus cutting prices because on the latter, the discount is reflected upfront. Gary is not changing any of his estimates based on this news. For this year, Wall Street is expecting a 3% year-over-year decline in deliveries for Tesla. And Q2 is expected to be 10% down year-over-year. And check this out. This is definitely positive for FSD take rates. Couldn't hold back. Ended up subscribing my wife's car to FSD as well. After the 6-hour trip to Fort Myers and then driving to Jacksonville, FSD is the most vital tool that exists when traveling. I would much rather give up Netflix, cable, Disney, etc., but not Tesla's FSD. Not that many people go on such long trips very often, but if you do, you will definitely want to have FSD. FSD has a rather interesting moment here. There's a do not enter sign, and the car sees the sign, stops it, then thinks it's a stop sign and keeps going. Definitely an opportunity for collecting more data. Tesla needs to have a whole bunch of these in the training data set. Oh, and Omar did one more drive that day, so it brought his total to 75% zero intervention drives for the day, and all of the interventions were not safety critical. Omar predicts that this week we will remove the nag, and in 2025 or 2026 we will start turning off the cabin camera. And after the nag is removed, Omar will reveal his secret. How come he never gets any nags? He has a loophole that he's taking advantage of, but he doesn't want to encourage anyone else doing the same thing because obviously you need to supervise the vehicle. I think Alex lives in Germany, and he says the Bild columnist has written a really good piece about the weekend protest against Tesla that is worth translating. I never would have thought that words of truth will ever come from Bild, but here we go. It's translated from German to English. If you ask around why people are actually demonstrating against Tesla, nobody really knows. Then keywords such as high water consumption or trees are being cut down come up. However, there are a lot of forests in the area, which is why the deforestation in the location where Tesla's Gigafactory is not significant, and Tesla uses significantly less water than the rest of car production in Germany. Such arguments obviously don't hold water. And in fact, the attack on the Tesla plants in recent days was no longer about environmental protection, but about a communal experience of left-wing extremists who want to live out their hostility towards democracy and the market economy and always choose a new target to do so. In Hambach Forest was lignite. Now it is against electric cars, which are flatly described as harmful to the climate. And it is always claimed that capitalism is responsible for climate change and is preventing climate protection. Tesla is the perfect projection surface for these simple-minded, vulgar Marxist views and feelings because the inventor and owner Elon Musk Musk can be branded as a turbo capitalist. He's particularly good at fueling anti-American resentment in the German left-wing scene. Elon Musk recognized the connection and wrote on the X platform, something very strange is happening as Tesla is the only car company to be attacked. The storm of demonstrators was also strange because they were marching in uniform. They wore uniform blue peak caps and blue flags. They looked like a militia. The only things missing were the armband and the belt. The police didn't feel like laughing. They had to protect everything at once: fences, roads, power lines. Many of them were injured. The journalists, as they often do, spoke trivially of scuffles as if they had been boys in the school playground. They ran against the police officers and ducked under them. They had practiced this the day before on their peaceful festival meadow with the circus tent, laughing and joking. There were also a few flags there. A flag reminiscent of the RAF was seen. I know nothing about it, but it says it's a group that killed several industry managers. Violent criminals mingled with peaceful demonstrators, such as the members of the local citizens initiative. The peaceful demonstrators washed their hands of the violence, but they were covering up the violence with their presence. The opposition to Tesla is not only stupid because it lacks meaningful arguments, it is vicious because violence was planned and carried out. Ross Gerber is happy about his Cybertruck. My Cybertruck is working perfectly and is beautifully made without any issues. There's a lot of obsession about Tesla sales in China, but AJ points out that China sales account for 22% of Tesla's total sales. And the US is twice as important as China. The rest of the world is almost 1.5 times more important than China. Over 75% of Tesla's revenues come from outside of China. And speaking of earnings, probably less earnings come directly from China than from other places due to how vehicles are priced over there. And here's Tesla's revenue broken down by geography. Of course, China is somewhat significant and it's important, but the US is quite a bit more important. And it's good to keep these things in perspective. Questrade Canada is now mailing these, so if you haven't voted yet, make sure to check your mail and vote. Here's more proof that there's nothing that Elon Musk can do to make the media happy. He is now attacked for spending time with his son. What are you gonna do next? This is from the Intelligencer. Why is Elon Musk dragging his 3-year-old all over the world? Lil X has become both prop and emotional support human. When I was a kid growing up, I was happy when my family took me everywhere where they went. I had more time to spend with my family. I got stronger relationships because of that, and I noticed things and I learned things, which made me smarter, and it helped me later in my business as well. Although, to be fair, neglecting your kids is the norm among media personalities. This is interesting. 2024 is a very difficult time to sell EVs in South Korea, except Tesla. EV sales in Korea so far from January to April down 28% year over year. Domestic electric vehicles are not selling well, but Tesla is doing all right. It's up 155% year over year. Oh, Elon announces when the next Starship is going to launch. Potentially is going to be in June, in 3 to 5 weeks. The last time it went pretty far, so this is going to be pretty exciting. Legacy automotive manufacturers today. We know how to make horses, but notice people want automobiles. Instead of going all in on automobiles, we are going to sell you horses carrying an automobile on their back, and we will call them hybrids. What could possibly go wrong? That has to be one of the best ways to describe hybrids. Big shout out goes to Steven. That's it for today's video. Make sure to click the like button so that we can make sure that there's no shadow ban on this channel. Here's another video from my other channel showing that it's only getting about half of the views it would normally get because my videos are only shown to about 50% of the regular viewers in the first few days, and then after the first 3 days it does push it out a little bit more, but because it's no longer news, it's old, no one's interested. So I appreciate everyone clicking the like button. That really helps. And going forward, I'm only publishing the full daily news videos on this channel, not on the old channel anymore. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, otherwise YouTube may stop showing you these videos completely. Subscribing sends YouTube a strong signal that this is a channel you want to watch.